Hi everyone, hope you're keeping well and welcome back to the 5th episode of Pick Up the Mic. So we're back this week with myself, Sam and Jeffrey. So do you guys want to say a quick hi to everyone?
Hi guys.
Hey, welcome back everyone.
Awesome. So today's episode is all about BAME representation in STEM, and we're lucky enough to be joined today by Riham. So thank you very much for agreeing to join us for today's episode, Riham.
Hi, I'm Riham. I'm a first generation university student and I'm currently studying life sciences. So it's nice to be invited to speak on the podcast today.
Oh, thank you for agreeing.
Yeah, thank you for that introduction, Riham. Now, I know some of our listeners might not necessarily know what life science is or what's included in life sciences. So would you be able to just give like a brief overview of what life sciences is and like why, maybe I guess briefly touch on like why you chose to study at university?
That's a great question, actually. Not a lot of people know what life sciences is. It's a fairly new course. I believe it's in its 3rd year now. Basically, in the 1st year, you get to choose to kind of study areas all around life sciences. So a little bit of psychology, sports science, some biomedicine, and also statistics as well, and environmental sciences. So it is quite like a wide range of subjects that you get to learn about. And then in your 2nd year, you get to pick your focus. So for me, I picked human pathology and immunology alongside introductory computer programming. And also there's like compulsory modules like bioinformatics as well. So it's really kind of focused on like epidemiology and just making it a kind of interdisciplinary course and learning how all different areas of life sciences can come together to help understand biology, biomedicine, and, you know, what's going on in the kind of a science world now. But yeah, in terms of motivation, in my 1st year of university, I actually studied psychology and I didn't really take a liking to it. So I changed kind of on a whim. I just looked around like what courses there were. I was really interested in biology, but I felt like my kind of knowledge on industry and what career prospects there were was very limited. So I chose life sciences because it was so broad and it would give me the opportunity to explore other careers. So I changed and I really like it, and it's an amazing course now, and I'm doing something that I enjoy a lot more.
Wow, that's wonderful. Thank you for telling us that story. Wow, yeah, thank you for that, Riham. And I think it's really interesting that you said that, you know, in your 1st year you were doing psychology for a bit, and then you decided that wasn't for you, and then you went on to go and do life sciences. And I'm really glad that you're enjoying it. And I guess sort of linking to what we discussed in our 1st episode that Sam was leading about, like following your passion, you ended up doing that with with studying life sciences, which is amazing. I guess the question that we want to know is, while I know in the last question you briefly touched upon like what motivated you to study life sciences, we're like initially said at the start, we're doing an episode about like BAME representation in STEM, and I guess we just want to know why did you decide to study a STEM subject? So, you know, you was coming to, you know, year 13 or the last year of college, and obviously, you know, you're doing your applications, but what made you want to do a STEM subject at university?
Initially, like going through college, being like a first generation student, it was a lot of focus on what kind of jobs are good for you, what jobs can you do in any country. And that was like the most kind of focus point in my household. So it was just like, you're either a teacher, you're a doctor, or you're a lawyer. So in terms of jobs, I literally had like a very like narrow-minded view on it. So I thought, okay, do you know what? I'm going to go into medicine. I'm going to be a doctor because I wanted to help people. So in college, I picked up kind of subjects that were mostly medicine related, you know, the biology, the chemistry, and then psychology was like the 3rd subject. I felt really kind of blessed in a sense to have my college teachers. So my biology teacher actually had a PhD in neuroscience. And that was really inspirational for me because she was also Black, and it wasn't really something that I saw as much during secondary school. So it was really inspirational to see somebody who looked like me in that higher position, who's gone through education and is actually talking about, you know, her struggles, her journey. And I just thought, you know what, this is really inspiring. I'm going to go and do something like that as well. And alongside that, my chemistry teacher was also a Black female as well. And it was just so inspiring to see that representation from that early stage. And I think that's what kind of directed my vision, and having those conversations with them, like, do you really want to go into medicine? You know, are you sure this is what you're motivated to do? And just having that conversation really opened up my eyes. And I thought, you know what? I'm really interested in biology, not so much chemistry, which I learned. But that's what really motivated me to go into STEM, because I thought, you know what, we do need more representation here. It will be helping people out, but just not in the traditional way that has been like spoken about in my household. So it just opened my eyes, and I started doing some more research into what careers I could go into instead of just your traditional teacher, doctor, lawyer. But yeah, having those teachers was really a motivation for me, because I saw people who looked like me.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think it's really interesting that you raise the idea of like these role models. And Sam's going to get into, I don't know if Sam wants to talk about it now or, bring it up later. But we will be talking about, the idea of role models, especially those from ethnic people from BAME backgrounds, to see representation and also see a wide range. I think, like you said, the idea of not just seeing people like representation in typical fields, whether it's going into like the field of medicine, or going into, like you said, like being a lawyer, but also seeing like it's got a wider scope. So there's like a wide range of fields that these people can go into. And yeah, I completely understand what you mean about biology and chemistry. They weren't my when it came to like picking A levels, they weren't my favorite A levels. That's why I just, hands up, I had to say that physics was the one that I loved. But yeah, it was really good. And I think what you highlighted was the importance of your teachers, that support that they offered you. And the same thing happened to me, the support that was given to me by, not what was interesting, it wasn't only my physics teacher that offered support, but also like my drama teacher, because I did history, drama, and physics for A levels, and my drama teacher was really supportive when it came to my uni application. Even though like I didn't apply to do the arts or drama at all, she was like really on board and making sure like I did my application on time, had everything sorted, was revising and doing well when it came to revision. So yeah, these role models, even for me, my drama teacher and my physics teacher both weren't from BAME backgrounds, but even still, I guess it's this idea of people who aren't from BAME backgrounds supporting and giving the same amount of attention as they would for other students is very important. And yeah, we'll get onto that and that a bit later. But yeah, thank you very much for that, Riham.
So thanks so much for explaining that. And we were actually just talking about this earlier, as Jeffrey said, about this idea of role models for the BAME community, and also for females as well. As you were saying, it was your female teachers that also gave you inspiration. And in psychology, because you do life science, you did a bit of psychology. We learn in psychology that a role model that you can relate to in terms of race, ethnicity, gender, and many other factors it actually empowers people, and it shows that they can do it, and they relate more to the person, so they know it's possible. If you don't see any women in an industry, or any one of any different ethnicity in an industry, it's intimidating, and it sort of says in some degree you're not welcome here, or if you are, that it's going to be more difficult because there aren't people there. So the fact that there are people there that are successful is such an important thing on people's psychology, which maybe you would have gone into. In fact, there was an article that we brought up earlier today, actually, that showed that role models, they actually help improve grades, including teachers. Teachers and role models help improve grades of students, because it gives them more engagement with the subject. It makes makes engagement more fun and more accessible, gives inspiration, and shows, like I said before, there was like a safe environment around the area. So this comes nice into question 3, which is whether within your studies, if you feel that the BAME community is represented well or not, from your experiences and from, it could be schooling, it could be university, it could be your lecturers, could be the faculty or whatever, but also the industry. So whichever way you want to answer that, like, how do you feel that the BAME community is represented?
So just to comment on your piece about role models, I think you couldn't have said it any better. Obviously, having like a role model to look up to who you can relate to is like so inspirational. And yeah, that was definitely really helpful. In terms of representation in my studies, I would say as a cohort, I think we're all pretty representative. Like, we come from all walks of life. So I don't think I've ever had a problem with kind of representativeness inside like my classes. Like, the classrooms, there'd always be people from different cultures, so I was exposed to quite a lot from a young age, which I'm really grateful for. But in terms of teaching and the lecturers, I think that's where it's kind of lacking, but I'm not complaining about it as well, because there have been times where, to meet some sort of target of representativeness, they've had to like bring in like kind of token lecturers and stuff like that. And that is really demotivating, because when you do have great lecturers, you're not going to complain because they're doing their best job. And currently, I think I've got some pretty brilliant lecturers on my course, and I've got no complaints about them. And their background or their ethnicities literally do not matter to me at all. It's just kind of having that representativeness would have been helpful, but not just because, okay, like we've got our token of representativeness. It's just find somebody who's equally as good as their job, but can also be representative as well, which is difficult. So in that sense, I think it's not something like myself, like it's not something to complain about, because like I said, I am a first generation student. So hopefully in a decade or two, the industry will be a lot more representative. You'll find lecturers from different backgrounds. I think that's the whole point of having this talk, to kind of inspire people to take that step, because you're not going to see change immediately, but hopefully over time you will see it. In terms of like industries, I would say in terms of like representativeness, it's just about taking that step as well, kind of moving into that.
Thank you so much for explaining. Yeah, I completely get that forcing a situation of representativeness that doesn't actually fit with the lecturer. So just getting someone in, like you're saying, to fit that token doesn't really help anyone. So yeah, it's a really good point. But as you said, it would really help when it does happen, and hopefully it does get there, and hopefully you'll be one of those people that will bring in that representation into the industry.
Thanks for that answer, Riham. It's really good to hear your side of it, because I know that when I studied a few years ago at Brunel, I also found the same thing that you said. So students, we're all represented, like everyone comes from all different backgrounds, all walks of life, exactly like you said. But then in terms of lecturers, there weren't as many BAME lecturers, like people who represented the BAME community, as there were, say, white lecturers, let's call it. But obviously, again, the same way that you said, I never noticed it, actually. And I never thought about it till I think one time Jeffrey, Sam and me were all talking about it. And I was like, actually, I don't I don't realize it. And even now in my job, in the group that I'm in, the only person from a BAME background is me. So it's just, I don't realize it because you don't think about that kind of thing, but it's really interesting that you mentioned it, and, it got me thinking, to be fair. So with that in mind, what do you think that industries can do to improve BAME within the STEM community?
Thank you, Nanishka. I think when it comes to kind of improving BAME representation, it's all about taking that step. Obviously, it's our job, like part of this generation, to push forward and have that representation. But I have had the privilege to secure a placement for this year. And I think going through all the applications, they've had these kind of separate screenings that they do for people who are from ethnic minorities or from lower income backgrounds. And I think it's just really about giving them the opportunity to present themselves in a way that isn't biased against them. I don't know exactly what they do through the screening process, but there's like a form that you go through to kind of just declare like what your background is and like where you studied and stuff like that. And they obviously have their own process. But it kind of gave me a sense of comfort, because there are times when I do think, do you know what, if I were applying for this job under like normal circumstances, I don't think I would I don't think I would get it, because somebody else who had the same qualifications as me but was of a different race would probably have that advantage, you know? So knowing that they are trying to make it more diverse has really kind of just pushed me to go ahead and apply for these jobs. So just knowing that they've taken that step to allow people through the gates, essentially, so that we can therefore be that representative later on in life, and prevent the kind of token people. So I think that's what the STEM industries are doing so far. I don't know, I can't speak on behalf of like all companies or all industries, but that's what I've learned from my experience.
Yeah, thank you very much, Riham, for that answer. It's really good to hear about, you know, the measures that the STEM industry are taking and putting in place. And it's really, really good to also see how you're benefiting from this firsthand. And, you know, it's a relief, to be honest, because it gives you a sense of comfort to know that you can just be yourself when you're at that interview or applying for it through the application. And you don't have to have those thoughts just sitting at the back of your head thinking that you're going up against someone else with the same qualifications as you, but you're never going to get that job just because of, you know, your background or your ethnicity or something like that. It's just comforting to know that they're putting something in place for you know, the BAME community. And obviously, like, diversity is the key to success. And, you know, it brings about new ideas and experiences from people from all different pathways and walks of life. And it also makes individuals more aware of their colleagues' backgrounds. And also, in addition to that, it brings about loads of different ideas and lots of different perspectives, which then in turn lead to so much like much better problem solving. And so, like, yeah, ultimately, diversity ends up helping to build good company reputation and basically overall success for the industry.
Yeah, no, thank you for that, Nanishka and Riham. And I think another thing that you know, I've seen that workplaces have had, especially in recent years, is this idea of like a BAME network or like a BME network, depending on where you work. But yeah, this idea of having an open forum where people from these diverse backgrounds can come and support each other. So like, for example, when I went on my summer placement with the Environment Agency, they've got a BAME network within the organization. And what was really nice is I was lucky enough for the one that, so the BAME network itself is like huge. So it's for the whole of the Environment Agency, but they split it up to like the different regions, and it can go smaller to like offices and stuff. So I was lucky enough that the person in my team was on the like panel for it, and had a role within the committee for the BAME network. And he like took me to their like networking events, and it wasn't like a big thing. It was just like everyone just went to lunch. It was just supposed to be like a place where we could all just chat. And yeah, it was really nice because it was like an open and honest conversation. I got to meet like loads of people who worked at different teams and different lengths of times within the Environment Agency. And yeah, I just think having that is really, you know, really important, especially when it comes to like other things, you know, like when it comes to like job applications and stuff, or even like support within the organization. Sometimes people feel as though they can't, answer certain things and like do certain things because of like who's there, or like, because they feel like they don't know the workplace that much. But yeah, having these like conversations and having these like networks are really good for supporting people from BAME backgrounds. And yeah, it gives them a place where they can ask people who've had experience within the workplace for advice on stuff, and even can lead to like mentorships and stuff, which is really key for someone to build their professional career. So yeah, definitely agree with what you guys were saying.
Yeah, no, that's really important. I think the thing that I picked up on as well was when you said that if the environment, even though it was filled with people that weren't from your ethnic background, and you saw that for when you were getting your placement, and in the past you said that might have put you off under different circumstances, but the fact that that people and industries are trying to refocus onto showing inclusion, being inclusive in so many different ways, it just shows how important that is. And the lesson there is for companies and the industry itself to actually put forth, even if there is no actual representation there at the moment, to start showing externally that that's the direction that they should be and they want to be going in, actually helps bring people in like you, because you said before you might have hesitated, but now actually it motivated you onwards. And I think that's such an important lesson for any industries out there, even if they're not inclusive. The way to do it isn't to, like you said, get that token person, but actually to say like, we want to be inclusive. Please come, please apply here, put forth your career aspirations into this direction. I think that's just so important. One of the things that I picked up on what you said. But yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for your answers, Sam and Riham and Anushka. And yeah, I think like what we've said is that, and we've all agreed on, is that we're not saying that other industries that aren't STEM aren't doing anything, but with the focus of the episode being BAME representation in STEM, it is clear that certain industries within the STEM field are doing active steps to improve BAME representation. Now, I think we've touched on this before, and Anushka touched on it about like this whole idea of diversifying the industry and how this can help the industry overall. But I guess to get for our listeners to just get a bit more information, Riham, how can diversifying industries within STEM, it might not necessarily, obviously, it'd be great if it's everything, but just, different industries within the STEM field, how can diversifying them and making representation, especially BAME representation, a key influencer or key thing that they do, how can this help to improve the industry as a whole?
I think Nanushka touched on this briefly about having that diversity, making sure that the industry is inclusive is what is key to progression. If there isn't diversity, I think that's what leads to discrimination, because obviously when you have those outsiders coming in, you feel like, oh, we don't want you here. So diversity is really key for progression, and having diversity will eliminate discrimination overall. That's how I see it. I think if we kind of take into consideration this pandemic that we're in, which is crazy considering how long it's been going on for, I don't think anybody thought it'd be this bad. But if you take into consideration kind of making those vaccines, these companies were actually teaming up, and not all companies, but companies were teaming up, giving their team support and kind of offering whatever they had to other companies so that they could progress and form a vaccine within the time limit that they had. And I think that's what we need in the world today. We need people to join hands and be open to that diversity, eliminate that need for competition, because too much competition just leads to segregation. I think that's what we kind of just need to refocus the conversation on, what are the pros of diversity? Yeah, it's great to be number one all the time, but is it gets lonely at the top, you know, like it's all about kind of joining hands together to make the world a better place. And it sounds very kind of utopian, but that's why we've got the vaccines now, because these companies were offering their support. They were saying, do you know what? This pandemic is bigger than everybody, and we do need to join hands. We do need to be diverse and offer our support. So what harm would it do to kind of have BAME representation, ethnic minorities, people who you don't see in companies? It wouldn't do any harm. It would benefit the company a lot more. Having those new, refreshing ideas, people from different backgrounds, giving their experience and, you know, sharing that, it would just be a lot more beneficial, because it will open your eyes to new procedures, you know, different ways of creating things, different ways to kind of target audiences or customers. It's all about that inclusivity, that diversity. I can't see anything but positive outcomes coming from diversifying the industry.
Yeah, no, and I think it's important to raise what you said, this idea of like what's happened with the vaccine, because that is something that people, especially when it comes to like other issues, have raised. This whole idea of like a united front to tackle an issue is like the way that issues will be tackled the quickest. So like there's been discussions like over the way that, like you said, like you know, this time last year, I'm pretty sure people wouldn't have thought that a vaccine for COVID would have come out as, you know, as quick as it did. Especially, you know, there's still a wide variety. But even like people were saying regarding climate change, or like why isn't that the same approach? Because obviously, you know, climate change is something that affects everyone. It's going to have a huge impact on lives in the future if nothing is done. And yeah, I think it's really important that, like you said, this whole idea of just having a united front, and, you know, everyone saying that, you know, this is what we're trying to avoid, or this is what we want to stop. How can we as a whole like do these things? And you know, like you said, doing that is going to have a huge impact. It's going to better the field. It's going to better society as a whole, and it's going to, you know, give this union of it's not me against you, us against them, but it's an idea of us tackling this issue. So yeah, I think that's really, really key that you raised. And yeah, I think that's definitely a message that we hope our listeners will take home with them today.
Yeah, definitely. And like, as a utopianist as well, myself, I really resonated with it when you said that. And I think that, yeah, it's like, it's not necessarily putting our differences behind us and coming together, but it's taking our differences with us when we come together. And so saying like you were saying, like with different cultures, every culture comes with a different mindset, a different way of doing things, a different speed, a different tempo. And just like, again, like it's not about putting our differences behind and coming together. It's about like bringing all these unique skills and like the mosaic of the world, like coming to balance itself out. And as like Jeffrey said, like helping with issues like climate change, there are so many different things that different mindsets, cultures, people, races, religions, gender, absolutely everything can come together and create what's needed to like help like tackle these world issues that can't be done. Like you're saying, like if everyone's just trying to be number one, then, you know, that means that someone's got to lose. And if someone's losing, that means that everyone's not like coming together because someone's just trying to get better than someone else. And it doesn't help the holistic system of the world. It only helps like, again, like a small number of people. So yeah, really important points there.
Yeah, and I guess there's one more thing I want to just add on to what Sam just said, and I think it was really important as well that you highlighted this, Sam, is we're not trying to say this idea of like a united front should be like you said, like ignore what's happened in the past. And ignore you know things that have happened in the past. It's saying that, you know, we understand that this is an issue and we want to move forward. And I think it's a perfect quote that I've heard. It gets misquoted sometimes, and it's been different people have said different variations. But essentially, the quote says that those who don't know their history, or those who can't remember the past or learn from their history, are doomed to repeat it. And there's this idea of, if you don't look back and see, these are how things have gone wrong. And I think especially when it comes to things like representation and race and, the idea of sexism and racism, if you don't look at your past and see how how there's been issues, you're just doomed to repeat it. And it'll just be this like endless cycle of things going around in circles. But yeah, I think it's definitely, like you said, like this idea of not forgetting your past, but like not letting your past limit you, and just saying, learning from your mistakes. Even organizations, organizations might decide to, moving forward. And I think, like we touched on it before, the things we were saying about these having BAME networks started by people from BAME backgrounds, or women's networks is another one as well. Having these networks to support these groups, whether it's like a women's network, like I said, BAME network, LGBTQ plus network, all these different networks are really good to supporting these individuals, because it gives them that open, that open forum and that open space to say, this is how I feel on an issue, or this is, somewhere where I know I can be myself and not have to worry about, different things, whether it's microaggressions or, feeling that you can't tell a colleague something because, they've not experienced it. So yeah, I definitely feel like the idea of having these networks helps to definitely address this theme of not repeating past mistakes, but moving forward to a better future. So yeah, thank you very much for that, Sam.
So for our final question, we're wondering what advice you can give to a member of the BAME community thinking about studying a STEM subject at university as well.
I think this links back to your previous podcast about kind of pursuing your dreams. Make sure you do your research. If you come from a household which is quite like narrow-minded on career prospects, please do your research, talk to people, have these conversations and see what else is out there. Find kind of like your purpose in life almost. It's really difficult. I think the whole topic of kind of choosing your subjects at A-level and then choosing your subject at university is such a difficult decision to make at such a young age. So take a break, find something that you truly enjoy and put your focus on that. See what careers you can make out of this hobby that you have or this enjoyment that you have. Like it's a very deep conversation that you just really need to have with yourself. You need to get a piece of paper, jot down what it is that you want to be doing for the rest of your life. Personally with me, I was like, oh, okay, I want to help people. How do you want to help people? That was like the main question, like, do you want to help people when it comes to psychology? Do you want to help people when it comes to medicine? And I think it was very like vague and just unclear because I didn't have those conversations with people. I didn't do my research. I think it was only until I actually took the subject of life sciences when I really started having those conversations with like careers officers, like placement advisors, having those conversations. And that's what really opened the doors for me, opened my mind up and helped me kind of focus on what it is that I wanted to do. So definitely about doing your research, talking to people who have got experience, regardless of how much research you've done previously. Don't feel ashamed if you know nothing about the STEM industry. Just have the confidence to ask those questions, because if you don't, then you'll never know. So that's just what I would say, kind of take some time. Don't rush into it too quickly.
Thanks, that's really important advice. So yeah, to take your time over the decisions you make is really important. And I guess from like a BAME angle as well, this just popped into my thought and I was hoping to get your opinion on it, but the idea of these safe industries to go into, and that sort of, like you were saying, that sort of encouraged by parents and families. And I was thinking the idea that maybe that comes from a place of uncertainty. Like obviously you're saying you said you were like first generation, and whether that or second generation, and whether that that sort of initial pressure to of the very first generation that comes here to find like a job that's really secure, just to get that security that might not have been around at the time. Do you think that's like an ongoing effect? Do you think that maybe actually now people can and should think about doing things that like they really want to do personally, that maybe less conventional choices for their families?
You couldn't have said it any better. Like, it's literally just about that security coming from a place of uncertainty. And just, I think like for my parents, it was more so about, it's all about getting your foot through the door. So that's where those kind of jobs of security came in. Pursue things that really inspire you. I think the world right now is moving pretty fast, and you just need to take a look at, what is going to be relevant in the next 10 years. Once you've completed university, what is going to be needed? And I think, like, obviously, like Jeffrey was talking about, like global warming, that's a huge issue. But just because people aren't really seeing the consequences as much right now, people don't really care about it. But it's just about visualizing the future. Where will you be needed? Are you going to need people that are doing a specific job later on? And I'm not saying to do it like to kind of throw away the relevancy, but just do something that you feel like you could benefit from, not now, but 10 years down the line. Something that you will be happy with, something that you'll be content with, and kind of just forget about the security, the uncertainty. I mean, I'm studying a course right now that's only been going on for 3 years. It's not exactly like the most certain course, but I thought about 10 years down the line, how is this course going to benefit me? Is it giving me the skills that I'm going to need later on? How is it going to set me apart from other people who are applying for these different industry jobs? And I've made the right decision. So stop thinking about the now and start thinking about the future. Think about future you, because once you've gotten to that point, you can't go back in time to go and change your decisions.
Thank you for explaining that. And you're such a perfect example for our listeners here, because you're exactly what they need to hear. You're the example of someone coming into a brand new industry, like you said, putting your foot through that door. So everyone listening, take note. It's completely doable, and she's absolutely paving the way in such an amazing way for the future generations. And like Jeffrey as well, who's doing the same thing with his climate change role that he wants to go into as well. Like it's again, it's a foot through the door in something that might not have been a conventional choice. So thank you so much for being such a great role model.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Riham, for all the discussions today. It's been a wonderful time on the podcast with you, and thank you very much for that. As everyone knows, we have an MC for each episode that we do, and recently we've added them to our website. So if you want to check out our previous MCs, just go to the website, and then you'll see in the menus there's an MC section which goes into a brief overview of the MCs and why we've picked them. But if you want to know the full thing, just listen to the episode. But today, we're going to be talking about a project. So this project is called Project 17. If you've heard of it, that's amazing. If not, don't worry about it. They're an organization that works to end destitution among migrant children. So they work with families experiencing exceptional poverty, and they aim to improve their access to local authority support. Now, the reason why we've picked them is because they're actually working with this young child in Rwanda. And the link to this will be on the website, and will be on our Instagram page as well. So if you do want to read the article and watch the video, it's about 4 minutes long, but I definitely recommend it. It's about a 17-year-old called Joyce. And like I said, she lives in Rwanda, and she's set out to discover why certain rural communities in her local area, in her country essentially, don't have access to clean water. She's, heard about how it's dangerous, and she knows that, linking to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, if people don't know about that, they're a group of targets that have been set by the UN that all these different countries signed, that they essentially have to meet by 2030, so in 9 years' time, and they range from like different things. So there's like clean water, there's energy usage, ending like world hunger, different things like that. But Joyce basically heard about, the clear damage that non-clean water can have, and she wanted to raise awareness about it. So she's working with Project 17 to help, and they're helping to support her. The Open University are also supporting her as well. And yeah, they're just there's a video on there that goes into much more detail about the project and how it's going. And this was filmed obviously before COVID. And the pandemic happened, and so there was that might be why when you're watching it, social distance and there isn't really anyone wearing masks. But we hope that once things, it seems like things are going back to normal this summer, that maybe we'll be able to get another video from the BBC or from Project 17 or maybe from the Open University that goes into more detail of the work Joyce has been able to do since the last year. So the video that we'll be linking it's about a year old, just over, came out in January. But yeah, it'll be really nice to see all the work she's done, and we wish her all the best with this project. And yeah, if you're really interested in learning more about Project 17, please do check out their website. It's just project17.org.uk, and they've got the different projects that they run on there, as well as volunteering and job opportunities if anyone is interested. But yeah, we've now come to the end of the episode, so we'll do the goodbye. So thank you very much for being on the episode, Riham. It's been a pleasure to have you on here. Like I said before, you've raised amazing points. You've really honed the message of there needs to be an increase in BAME representation in STEM. And I like how you said that they are doing, they're going in the right direction. They're giving other fields to, ways that they can follow. And yeah, you've really showed that, having this increase in representation when it comes to BAME, the topic of BAME issues, can have a huge impact. So yeah, thank you very much for that.
For inviting me to the podcast, and hopefully this conversation can inspire people who aren't so sure about pursuing STEM careers and, get them to think about their future self rather than their present self.
Definitely. And yeah, if there is anyone, that's thinking about, because we're at that time of year where, especially for college students, even for, and sixth formers, but also, uni students who might have done a non-STEM subject for their undergrad and are thinking of doing a STEM subject for their postgrad or for their PhD. Check out these like different university websites. Check out like UCAS as well. They've, it's been a long time since I'm currently in the process of applying for a postgrad, but it's been a long time since I've been on there, but they've updated their website and it's like got a lot of information. It's very like user friendly and helps you to like look at a whole range of different courses. That if you are interested in doing a STEM subject, there are loads of resources out there available to you. And we will be in future episodes coming up, we will be talking about, graduate opportunities and university applications as a whole for both postgrad and undergrad. So keep an eye out for that, especially if you're looking to apply for a STEM subject. And yeah, we thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. And yeah, we will speak to you all soon. So have a lovely day and all the best from us at Pick Up the Mic.